And we are live with another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside by Andrew Johnson. And Andrew, we are just a couple of days away from the NBA tipping off this upcoming season. A very tumultuous offseason, to say the least. A lot of big-time trades went down, big-time off-season moves as well, with teams signing new players, and now shaking up the landscape for this upcoming NBA season. Maybe some surprise teams make the postseason this year. Maybe we should have some surprise picks for NBA, finals, or maybe winning the MVP. But overall, should be another great NBA season upcoming. What are you looking forward to the most coming up this season?
I'm looking forward to hopefully watching my New York Knicks have a good season. I'm not gonna say they will, but I'm
Don't
gonna
we
say
all?
I'm hopeful.
Don't we
That's what I'm
all?
looking forward to. I know they're not gonna contend for a title. I know they're not gonna be absolutely awful either. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to going to competent basketball games this season, whether it's the Knicks or St. John's, God willing.
Yeah, hopefully, because you and I both know we've seen some
I'm
dark
ready. I'm
times
ready.
with
I'm ready
that.
for football to be over. So
Yeah, football has been really brutal for us, and we will discuss the college football week and NFL week upcoming in the next couple of days here on the All Gas No Break Sports Show. But let's get into this NBA season, and it's obviously, as I mentioned, it's been a really wild offseason for a multitude of teams. A month ago, we had a big time trade go down between Portland, Phoenix, and um, the Milwaukee Bucks. Damian Lillard obviously was involved. All the talk of the offseason was where would he go in a trade. Finally went down. He gets traded to the Milwaukee Bucks, and that trade brought a lot of things with it. I mean, Drew Holiday now goes from Portland in this deal. Then he gets traded to Boston after that, and it's in a separate deal. You have DeAndre Ayton going now to the Portland Trailblazers. The Suns getting Yusef Nurkic. A lot of different things happen in this type of trade and really shakes the landscape of the Eastern Conference, because you look at Milwaukee now and they have a big three in their stake with Giannis obviously there. Then you have now Damian Lillard. You could maybe consider Chris Middleton that top three if you still think that he's that type of a caliber player. But Milwaukee is definitely a threat in the Eastern Conference this season. Obviously, Boston's going to be up there as well. We don't know the status of what Philadelphia is going to be doing because we still don't know what's going on with James Harden. Um, but it looks to be that Boston and Milwaukee are going to be the top two contending teams in the East. Maybe Cleveland and Miami give them a run for their money. In our case, hopefully the Knicks do something this year. But it does seem like to be a two-team race at the top of the East. What do you think is going to happen in the Eastern Conference, and what were maybe some of the other big surprising moves of this offseason that you saw from any of these Eastern Conference teams?
we spoke a little bit about Dame and Portland. We spoke a little bit about Milwaukee, but let's actually dive a little bit into Portland before we head into the East and the teams that I want to start with the teams that were impacted by this trade.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's start with the first off. Portland, they've got Scoot Henderson now. That's their Dame replacement. They got
Yep.
DeAndre Ayton from the Suns. That's their big man replacement for Nurkic. They got Robert Williams III from the Celtics and Malcolm Brogdon. They re-signed Jeremy Grant and they kept Matisse Thybulle, kind of their glue guy. So you can figure that that's going to be their starting five and their six man. This is absolutely massive for the Portland Trailblazers because not only did they get younger, I think they got a little bit better minus Dame. They kind of retooled at a couple different spots here. Defensively, Robert Williams and DeAndre Ayton, they'll be able to complement each other because what Williams doesn't give them on offense,
Right.
that will be given by Ayton, and on defense and vice versa. Plus, you got Scoot Henderson. Scoot Henderson is a very young, good prospect. He is exciting. He gets to the basket. He can shoot well. He wasn't a traditional prospect where he went to came straight from high school or he went to a college. He came straight from the G League. So it's going to be interesting to see how he translates. And while he seems to be an offensive spark plug, his potential backfield court mate might be Matisse Thybulle. It's either be him or Malcolm Brogdon, depending on who we want to use. I think for fit purposes, to keep Matisse fair, he could space the floor. He can be a better defender, so he can kind of pick up his slack a little bit. And Malcolm Brogdon as a six man to run that offense. Good luck trying against scoring him on the second unit. So I think Portland's going to look very good. But let's talk about Boston Celtics now. as much as it pains me to say this, I think they may be the best team in the East.
Yeah, it
I'm not
is.
entirely
It's tough to say that.
sold on them yet, but you got to listen to what they did. So they had a gaping hole at point guard, and it's no disrespect to Marcus Smart, but clearly things in Portland were not going to work out for him. He was the heart and soul of that city. I'm sure they appreciate for everything he's done there, but they got an upgrade in Drew Holiday, which is pretty much Marcus Smart but better.
Right.
They extended Jalen Brown. They kept him. He's going to be one of the richest NBA players of all time. And kind of went under the radar. We didn't mention this. They got Kristaps Porzingis.
They did.
When he is healthy, he is a great defensive center that could stretch the floor. He's a great passer for a big man, and but he has to stay healthy, and that's been his problem the last couple of years of his career since he left New York. He's missing 30, 40 games a year, 20 games here. He's missing weeks at a time. So if he can get what they saw in New York and not what they saw in Washington or Dallas, combine that with Jason Tatum, that's gonna be a very scary team because he's an upgrade from Robert Williams the third defensively and offensively. So he's just a massive upgrade when he can stay on the floor.
Right.
Going to other teams in the East. Now let's talk about the final one of the final teams impacted by this trade, which, like you said, were the Milwaukee Bucks. I think this is the perfect pick and roll combination since Kobe Shaq with Dame and Giannis.
Okay.
Let's think about it. How would you stop Shaq? You would stack the paint, right?
Yeah.
That was the only way you were stopping Shaq, was you had to stack the paint. Same thing with Giannis. But you had Kobe, which the only way to stop him, you had to go guard the perimeter. You had to put an extra guy in the perimeter. So you have this perfect combination again now, where you have a guy that's so dominant in the paint. The only way you can stop him is you just stack the paint, and the same thing for the guy in the perimeter and Dame. So it's going to be a great 1-2 punch, and it's going to be a chemistry issue. It's going to be a leadership issue. It's going to see who's the actual the top dog on this team. That's the only thing I'd be a little concerned with if I'm a Bucks fan. But it's going to be an absolutely great pick and roll, and I'm excited to see this team. And I guess also a little under the radar, Tristan Thompson, is he going to have a career resurgence? Maybe, probably not. But
No, probably not.
I thought that was like a fun little footnote to see Tristan Thompson. I guess the final thing we can talk about now is the Suns, which we thought they won the offseason up until what Boston and Milwaukee just did. Massive trades. They got Bradley Beal from the Wizards. They got Nurkic from the Trailblazers. And while that is, I think, a downgrade from Ayton, Ayton did not want to stay with that team. He had
Yeah,
problems with the
he
coaching staff.
won.
He did not like the city and the organization. So to get him off the team and get him out of your locker room may be a net positive at this point.
Right.
And the issue was who's going to play when KD, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal aren't on the court. Well, you got a couple guys now that can play off the bench. Yuta Watanabe, who was formerly of the Nets. Bull, which is always exciting. Keita Bates Diop. So you have guys, young guys, actually, not the veterans. The only veteran that they did sign here, might be electric off the bench, is Eric Gordon. But they got young guys to buy into this system. We thought it was going to be a retirement home on the bench. It's clearly the opposite here. So it's going to be very exciting, which I think these are probably the top 4 teams in the NBA. Well, excuse me, the top 3 teams, because Portland's not going to be competing for anything anytime soon. But
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting which one of these teams are going to emerge.
Keep in mind, Portland got some draft picks from the Damian Lillard trade. Obviously, they got a couple first from Milwaukee, and then the Blazers would also get a couple first round picks from the Celtics in the Drew Holiday trade. So Portland is set up very nicely for the future, and with Aiden still being relatively young, and now you have Scoot Henderson, they're going to be maybe a contending team in the next couple of years. But obviously, it's still a wait and see game with them. But yeah, I think this is an interesting trade with Milwaukee because it's essentially saying, listen, we're trying to win a championship after a tough end of the season last year. You were the 1 seed, you lost to Miami in the first round, and you're looking to make an impact. And making a trade like this is telling the entire world, this is the impact that we're making this upcoming season. We want to get back. We want to win another NBA championship. And you got one of the better players in all of the NBA in Damian Lillard. And this is basically a move to counteract what Boston, you said, did in the offseason, getting
Well,
Porzingis, now getting Drew Holiday. This is a really big time move, and it should be fun to see what those two teams do.
you know, I'm glad you mentioned this. I don't think this was more so to be with Boston because, to be honest with you, I think Milwaukee's management was okay getting the one ring, but this was more so to retain Giannis because Giannis made it very clear this season or this offseason that if he's expecting to compete for a championship and not only compete but win a championship. And if the organization wasn't willing to make moves that could cater to his needs, he was going to just walk away as a free agent in the not the end of this season, but the end of next season, or possibly the man to trade. And maybe he was bluffing, but if not, they didn't call his bluff because they went out and got Dame. So that's how a front office responds to a star that says, "Hey, I need help. The NBA
Right.
is getting better, and we're staying stagnant. So I need help at this point." So you got to amend the you got to commend the front office for helping Giannis in this situation. He needs that. He needed that second co-star when it's an arms race in the NBA here, and you have KD, Kevin Booker, and Bradley Beal playing against each other or playing with each other, and you're on the other court. It's you and Chris Middleton. You need an equalizer at that point. It's not like saying like, oh, he's not good enough to carry a ring on his own because he's clearly done that. But at some point, you just need an equalizer. And the GM and the entire staff there in Milwaukee came up big for him, and I'm sure he's very excited to play with Dame this season.
Yeah, it should be a really fun, as you said, mentioned, pick and roll combo between Damian Giannis, and I think that's a good segue to seeing what teams are going to make the postseason this year, not only in the Eastern Conference but also in the Western Conference. As we'll dive into who we think will be the top 8 teams in each conference. We did this last season where we picked each team to make the postseason, and I don't remember off the top of my head how we did when we picked those teams, but
I got we did 10 last year. We're gonna stick to 8 this year. The only
yeah,
team I called one team wrong, and my surprise team last year was the Kings.
right, okay.
I did pretty well. I forget which one I didn't call correctly, but
I rem-
I got 9 out of 10 right in both conferences
because I
last year.
remember deciphering between Portland and Sacramento for my last wild card. Why I said wild card as if I'm talking like MLB, but like my last play-in team, and I think I chose Portland, and obviously that wasn't the right decision. But yeah, it was. I don't remember how we did overall, but I think we're
We did
going to
very
see.
well.
Yeah, I think we did overall mostly decent, but I think now let's see who we think are going to make the postseason this year. We'll just do the ATs as formerly the old playoff format, and we'll see. Maybe one of us has a surprising team that makes this postseason this year, either in the East or the West. So, would you like to take the floor with one of your first couple teams, or do you want me to take? Do you want me to start at it?
So my question is, do you want to start with the East or the West? That's my question to you.
I think I think the Eastern Conference is a little bit easier than the West, in my opinion, to pick the
I would
teams.
tend to agree with you.
So
So
I think
these are going to be in absolutely no particular order for those who are
right.
we're not saying like, oh yeah, if for example I start off the East and I say the Knicks, like obviously the Knicks are not going
Yeah,
to be
we're
the
not.
one seed, but
Yeah, we're not
I'm going to
saying
say
that.
they are locked to make the playoffs. So these teams that we're saying, okay, these are the locks to make the playoffs, not the top 10. They maybe make the play, and these are the ones that we think, you know what, we're going to put it all on the line here. These are the teams making the playoffs, even those ones that are borderline between 6 for 10 that can obviously not make the play. I'm sorry, 7 for 10 and not make the playoffs. But these are the ones that we're going for. We're saying these top 8 are going to make the playoffs. And boy, who do I want to start with? You have a lot of great teams out east. Um, dare I say it? I'm going to start with give me the Boston Celtics, obviously. So give me
Okay.
Boston. Give me the Bucks. Uh, I think even though they get trade Harden, give me the 76ers. Again, these are no orders. This is no order. Give me the Heat. Give me the New York Knicks. This is where it gets a little tough now. After this, like these top 5, it's where it really
Uh,
opens up.
I'm
I'm
not.
gonna say, give me the Hawks. I'm gonna go on a limb here. I'm gonna say, give me Trey Young and the Hawks.
There's a team that I'm shocked you haven't said yet.
Is there a team?
There is a team I'm shocked you have not said yet.
Let's see. I said
We
Boston,
s- we
Milwaukee,
s- we saw them.
Philadelphia Heat. Oh, yeah. I'll
They
put
have
Cleveland in here
they
too.
have to be on there.
Yeah, Cleveland has to be in here too. And now it's the last team I have to put in. I almost completely glanced over Cleveland, so I thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, I was gonna say wow.
And now I'm between. I think I'm between Toronto and Chicago now. I don't know who I would pick over them. I think Chicago's going to end towards a rebuild, and I think Toronto's trying to retool. So give me Toronto as the last team to make the Eastern Conference playoffs. So give me again, Boston, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Miami, New York Knicks, Atlanta Hawks, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Toronto Raptors. I was about to say Blue Jays because baseball's on mine, but no, they're the Raptors.
Yeah. The Raptors got one of the better players in the NBA draft, Grady Dick, remember? So that could bring some exciting things to Toronto this upcoming season.
And I
Ooh.
will now. I'll give the floor to you now, Nick.
Well,
I'm sure your list may not be.
it's
Besides
not
the
going to be
top
too
six,
much.
it's not going to be. It's not going to be that much different.
Right, it's not going to be too much different. Boston, Bucks, Knicks, Cleveland, obviously. Miami should be back there no matter what. Uh, the 76ers, I think, are not going to be like what they were last season, top three, just because if Harden doesn't play, Embiid is going to have to do everything, and it's going to be really tough for Embiid to just do that all by his lonesome. So I think Philadelphia makes the playoffs, but it won't be as they were last season. Then it really
And I,
comes
can- I
down.
can agree with that.
Then it comes down to the last couple teams. I think Atlanta does make it. I just think they have too many playmakers on that team to not make the postseason. So that's why I would tend to lead with that one. And then it really comes down to that last spot in the East. Um, Chicago, I'm not really sold on either because I think they're in a
I think they're
spot.
going towards rebuild.
I think
I think they're gonna just fire sell the team.
right. I don't know where they go with Zach LaVine at this point. I think it's that's been a trade that has been rumored to be happening for years now. I think we're getting closer and closer to that happening. Um, I'm not as sold on Toronto, honestly. I don't really think that they're there yet. I just think they're still like going over the hangover from the finals championship when they won a couple years ago, and I don't really like the team on paper. So it's really tough right now because there's some young teams in the East, and there was a team last season, Johnson, and if you remember, that was making a little bit of a stride towards the end of the season that could have almost made the play in, and obviously at the end of the season it did not go out for them. But I'm really torn between the two teams now. It's either for me Indiana or Orlando. They were both of them were very close to making the postseason last year. They obviously missed the play in by just maybe two or at least 1 to 2 games. And I think it's really going to come down to me who brings them into the postseason. And I honestly think maybe it's Indiana. I like what they did in the offseason. They got Bruce Brown from the Denver Nuggets. They traded for Obi Toppin from the Knicks. They got some good draft players in this year's past NBA draft. And as much as I want to lean towards Orlando because I think they are going to be a team to be reckoned with in the next couple of years, I think just having a star player like a Tyrese Halliburton can lead Indiana to the postseason. So I think Indiana, for me, even if they aren't the 8th seed, I still think they're going to be in the playoffs no matter what this season, as either the 8 or as a play-in team as the 9 or 10. So I'll take the Pacers.
Really? Okay. I don't think I was expecting a pacer action today.
I think we tried that last year. It didn't work. But I think just because of some of the role players they've added to their team, I think that's why I like them a little bit more. I'm not really sold on Chicago. They might make it, but I'm just not sold on them. And the same thing with Toronto. I'm just not really a big fan of those two teams.
I think that's appropriate to not be sold on those teams yet because there's a lot of question marks going throughout the rest of the season. We don't know if they're actually going
And we didn't
to be
talk about
committed to actually winning basketball because there's so many questions in the front office as well.
right. And we didn't talk about Brooklyn either, but I'm not sold on Brooklyn because they really did not have a good second half of the season with that new core, and now you're getting a full year with that new core, and I just think they're not in a good spot right now, and I think they're going to be a team that's probably going to be picking high in the NBA draft. But keep in mind, I don't know if this is the start of the year where they don't have their first round pick because I think the Rockets hold it.
I believe so. They do. Yeah.
So
All right. So
I don't know.
I guess let's start off with the West now. The West is a whole different animal because there's so many teams on. While the East is kind of heavy in the middle, the West is heavy on top.
Right.
I would say the eighth seed in the Eastern Conference is going to be a lot better than the eighth seed in the Western Conference. But my God, the one seed in the West is going to be a monster compared to the one seed in the East. I think that's a fair analysis. Would
That's
you agree?
that's definitely a fair analysis. I don't tend to disagree with that at all.
So I think there's one team we haven't actually spoken about yet, and I can't believe we didn't speak about them yet. The reigning, defending world champion Denver Nuggets, led by the man who takes basketball as a side gig. He's all about his family and racing horses and not really winning championships. And it's gonna be funny by the time he's over his career because he's probably got 5 or 6 rings. And a guy like Shaq's like, man, if only uh that could have been me. It's gonna be weird to see some of these legends say like, wow, this guy didn't even take the game seriously, and yet here he is. He's an all-time great player. Let's talk about Denver because they're the number one team I have on my list here. I think they're going to be a fantastic team next year. But I'm not really sold to see if they're going to go back to back. And this is the first team I'm going to have on my list, but I'm not really sold if they're going to go back to back. I don't know if you have any comments on that, Nick. If you think they're going to actually go back to back this year.
I think it's going to be tough because the Suns made some moves in the offseason. Golden State obviously got Chris Paul. The Lakers improved their bench. I think they have a possibility of getting back there, but I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult than it was last season for them to get back there.
Yeah, like you said, they added Chris Paul, Golden State. That's another team we really didn't talk about. That could be their this could be their last dance. This could be it for Golden State, and I'm not gonna. I don't know if I have them in my playoff bracket. Actually, I think they're a heavy favorite to make it. But let me just go through the teams first that I think are gonna make it, that are locks to make it, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start with the Denver Nuggets. Obviously, give me the Suns, give me the Clippers, because now that they have that new rest rule in place where you can't rest two All Stars together, which is a little weird because Paul George and Kawhi can't rest together, but Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic can. Just a little tidbit that they can't do that. So give me the Clippers, give me the Lakers. Could also be LeBron's last dance. I don't think he's going to win a title this year, but that's going to be interesting to look at.
Okay.
And now I'm kind of getting down here because I have the Mavericks with Luca and I have the Grizzlies with Ja Morant because you can't count them out. But then you come to 7 and 8, and the glaring team I left out here are the Golden State Warriors, and I think they're a heavy, even title favorite this year. But how much does Klay Thompson have left in the tank? That's what I'm asking. They're gonna be asking him to play power forward this year.
Which is
That's
wild, but
insane. That's insane, by the way. If you said, "Oh yeah, Clay," when you're 29 years old, if you said 7 years ago, play power forward, I would have said, "All right, he could maybe do it. He's got some athleticism. He can keep up on his defensive rotations, but he's old now. He's gonna have to guard guys that are way bigger than him. I don't know if he can actually keep up with that. I think that's a kind of a stupid request by management to have him I guess play defense against power forwards. So that's the one question mark because I don't know how long that experiment's going to last because Chris Paul is not coming off the bench. He's going to be as a starter. But um, so with picks 7 and 8, I'm left with a couple teams: Golden State, Sacramento, and the Pelicans. So with that being said, I think I'm still going to keep Golden State in there. I think they sneak in, but they're not going to be a top 5 team like everyone thinks they are. And I'm not going to bet against the Kings. I think the odd man out here are going to be the Pelicans. I don't believe in Zion's, I don't want to say ability to stay on the court, but his drive to stay on the court. Because I think he's one of the best talents the NBA's ever seen. But kind of like a la Greg Oden, he can't stay healthy. The guy is just constantly on the bench. He's hanging out. No disrespect to him, obviously, but just to me, he is he needs to prove something before I can say, oh yeah, he's going to make the playoffs. He's going to be healthy. He's going to have his first full season in the NBA because he's even when he debuted as a freshman, as a rookie, he wasn't healthy. He had to sit out the majority of games his rookie year and only started making that comeback towards the end. So I think I'll have to pick against that until I see him play 65 plus games in the season. So I'm
right.
going to go with the Kings as my last team in.
Okay. So I agree with you on Denver and the Suns. I think those are pretty much the top 2 locks for the West. I think Golden State will be fine. I think they still have a lot left in the tank for them, so I think they'll make the playoffs. Lakers made a lot of moves in the offseason. I think it would be catastrophic if they don't make the postseason. So I think, being as it may, the Lakers do make it. The Clippers, depending on their health, should make it as well. And then it really gets down to a couple of teams. I think Memphis does make it, even though Ja is suspended, remember, to start the season. They still
Right.
have a really good team on paper. And once Ja comes back, that will help them get better as the season goes along. So I think Memphis should make it. I think Dallas makes it too. I'm not really sold on it though, but their
You
defense
have
was a huge
Luca.
their defense was a huge issue for them last season. But I think now you have a full year of Kyrie and Luca. Kyrie's there for a couple more years now after signing the extension in the offseason. I think that is big for this team. Derek Lively, I think, could be a really good center for them defensively. I think Dallas will be back in the postseason this year. I don't know if it's going to be as a play-in team or not, but I still think they get back there. And the big surprise for me, Johnson, I know Sacramento had a monster year last year. I don't think they made the postseason this season.
You gonna bet
I,
against him again?
I'm going to bet against them again. I know it bit me last year. Um, I don't know if I'm sold on it going back to back this season. And I honestly love what the Oklahoma City Thunder did last season. I think they make the postseason this year. You're going to get Chet Holmgren now for a full year. You got some younger talent. They got Victor Oladipo this offseason from the Miami Heat that brings some veteran leadership to that team. And they're a fun team to watch. You saw what they did in the postseason. They beat the Pelicans in the playing game. They moved on. I think they are a team to watch for this upcoming season. And I think this is the start and the catalyst of a year where we say, oh boy, the Thunder are starting to make that type of a run that no one wants to see in the next couple of years because they're going to be a dangerous team. I think that's the start of it this season. So I got OKC making the postseason this year as either a play-in, most likely a play-in team, but I don't think the Kings get in. And if they do get in, it's going to be a play-in team. I don't think they're going to be a top 3, top 5 seed in the West.
Oh no, I'm saying they're gonna be like a top seven. I have them as like my 7 or 8 spot. I don't have them locked into the
It's
postseason at all. So I completely agree with you.
it's tough for me because I think New Orleans, I think gets in no matter. I think they still make the play in either way. The Timberwolves are a team we haven't talked about. I still think they make it either way because they still have Cat and Anthony Edwards. That still should be a playoff team. And I really don't know after that. I mean, I think Sacramento has the ability, obviously has the ability to make it, but a team I think that could really make a run at making a play-in spot is the Rockets. I think the Rockets have a chance to make the play-in this year. You saw what they did in the offseason, whether that be, we agree with how much money they gave some of these players. They got Fred VanVleet, you got Dylan Brooks, you drafted Amen Thompson, the draft, Cam Whitmore, they got at number 20. They signed veterans Jeff Green, Aaron Holiday. They made some really good moves in the offseason. Now, Ime Udoka, the former Boston Celtics head coach, is going to be their head coach this season. I think the Rockets are a team to watch out for this season because I think they could make the postseason as a playing team this year. I like their chances, honestly, more than the Sacramento Kings, and that's I'm probably going to be taken really bad out of context once the season goes along, but I do think the Rockets have a good chance this year.
Man, so you trust them more than the Kings?
I I look at who are the coaches of the Kings, and it's no disrespect to Mike Brown. He had a great year last year, but I've seen his previous track record, and it's not been great. I just don't know what I'm getting out of Sacramento. Was this all a fluke? Was it a magical run last season that ended to the Warriors in Game 7, or are they going to prove me wrong and make the postseason again as a top 5 seed in the West? I don't know. I just don't trust it right now.
All right, so those are some bold predictions from the both of us here because I'm not sold on some teams. You're certainly not sold on some teams, and
Yeah,
the good thing is there's a lot of full mush going on here, but it's almost impossible to fully mush predicting the playoffs unless the conference standings completely flip. There will be no full mush. So
right.
this we cannot call this a mushing hour because we're just predicting how the season will go. I mean, if the Pacers somehow end up being like the 1 seed and stuff like that, that'd be crazy. But I don't think we'd ever see anything like that.
I won't
That'd be
say I
it
won't
would
say I
bring
called
full mush to
right.
another level.
I won't say I called it if the Pacers like make the playoffs like that, but I'll say I called it if they make the play in. So
I think that's fair. All right. So let's go into our MVP prediction now. So over the last couple of years, we've seen some. I don't want to say MVP controversy, but um, can we talk about it yet?
well, we can talk about how we mushed Luca last year.
We did mush Luca last year, but the wrong guy won MVP last year.
No,
And even if he does become a New York Knick, which he's been linked to over the last couple of years, last couple of months, I should say, I will still maintain that Nikola Jokic should have won the MVP last year. I don't think that's very controversial.
yeah, that's fair.
Um, but now we have a chance to wipe the slate clean and actually get a good MVP. And I don't mean good MVP, but the right MVP. So I will defer to you if you have one or two guys you think could win MVP. If you think it's one guy already has it locked up 100%, I would like to know your thoughts on who you think the early MVP favorites are in this way too early prediction.
So I look at some of these teams and what they're going about. You look at some of the MVP candidates, like Luca obviously has Kyrie Irving now. Giannis now has Damian Lillard. Jason Tatum's obviously got now Porzingis on his team with Jalen Brown. Embiid might not have Harden, so that could really, in my opinion, really even make his stock go higher for MVP this year. I'm leaning towards Jokic being my MVP pick, and that's probably where I'm going to end up going with this. But I think a sneaky. I don't know if it's sneaky enough to say it's sneaky, but I think comparing to what the other like how many players are ahead of him in the MVP race, I think SGA has a really good shot at winning MVP this year. He was
Uh,
amazing for the Thunder last season, and I would not be surprised to see him win MVP. And if my prediction does come true and the Thunder make the postseason, I think it's just going to be because of SGA playing lights out for that team.
So
I'm
you
gonna go
have
with
two, right?
So I'm gonna go with Jokic, and then SGA is I would say I think for me is going to be in the top three. I don't know if it's going to be runner up, but I think SGA will be in the top three MVP voting.
So I'm glad you brought up SGA because I have a top three as well. I don't think we've ever seen a player like SGA that's done. I don't want to say anything in the NBA because clearly he's lighting it up every night, but nothing noteworthy in the postseason to be anointed as a top 10 player.
Right.
Because you had to remember a couple of years ago when Luka was playing night in night out, he was having these fantastic games, and it took him a couple of seasons getting first team All NBA to finally get anointed by a large portion of the NBA community as he's the next guy. Jokic had to earn that same respect too. Giannis had to earn that same respect. So it's wild to see a guy like SGA, and again, no disrespect to him, be anointed this early when other players have had to actually.
No,
I don't say
it's
work for it, but
yeah.
you know, actually have to like win something. Because even Dame still faces that same criticism night in and night out. It's like, oh, he's not a top whatever guy because he's never won anything. So to see him rise from probably a top 30 player, all star, fringe all NBA player to certified top 10, MVP candidate, maybe first team all NBA member, it's crazy because it seems like it happened in one offseason. But I've got three picks, and I'm also going to agree that Jokic should win another MVP this year. He should have won last year. The Philadelphia media went on all out attack, and just because Jokic had a bad end of the season for the last like week or two, that's what sealed it. Like they completely ignored the other 70 plus games of the season. They just focused on the last 5 or 6 games, 10 games of the season, and that's why Embiid won it, which is the dumbest reason of all time. They just were looking for a reason to take the award out of the guy's hands, whatever. I'm still gonna say Luca in the top three because you can never count him out. And this is my sleeper pick here. I know I just kind of talk about Golden State not working, all that stuff. I have him in the playoffs, so I don't have him not that high. But what if it's all? What if I'm the guy that doesn't know it, right? What if I'm the like, oh, I don't think Chris Paul is going to work at point guard with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson at power forward? What if it does work though? And if it does work, Steve Kerr's going to look like a genius. Golden State's ball movement's probably be unparalleled, something we've never even seen. Probably would rival any team. Like, it would look absolutely crazy. It would look like a college team playing a high school out there. And Steph Curry wins another MVP because I think
Okay.
this is his last real chance to win an MVP. He's at the very, very end of his prime. This is probably going to be one of his last productive years. Not saying he's going to fall off after this, but it's probably his last of his best productive years this year. And this could be the final ride with the Warriors. So if if they finish like 50 plus games in the West, he's top two, top three. And if it's a coin flip between him and Luka Jokic, I think they're gonna give it to Curry because this could be the last time he wins MVP. So On the off chance that this whole experiment works with Chris Paul, Steph Curry backcourt, Klay Thompson at power forward, I think they're running Draymond at center. You can correct me if I'm
Right.
wrong about that.
No, they definitely are.
So the tallest guys with a small forward at Wiggins, which I think is 6'8", which is nuts to me. But if small ball really does win with these 30-plus-year-old men, give Curry the MVP. That's my sleeper pick. But I would say Jokic number one, Luka two, and Curry number three. Those are the that's my, I guess, ranking over. That's my hierarchy for NBA players winning MVP this season.
Yeah, I think for me it's gonna be Jokic. I have Giannis being number two. I think Damian Lillard's gonna help him a lot in that scenario because with the pick and roll, I could see Giannis easily averaging a triple double with that, just because now he has another option to throw the ball to. And I think Giannis, I think honestly for me, if it's not Jokic, it's gonna be Giannis. I want to put Luka in my top three. There's been some injury concerns, which concerns me for Luka this upcoming season. And I want to go with the sexy pick, so I'll keep with the SGA as my number three. But yeah, I don't hate the Steph Curry pick. I think he's gonna have a really good year with Golden State. I think the Warriors are gonna have a good year despite the small ball that they're gonna potentially be playing this upcoming year. I still think they'll be a top team in the West no matter what.
All right, so that's good to hear. Give me your early finals prediction as well. Like you can just say you can give me a
Whew,
matchup or a couple teams that make the finals.
it's tough. It's always tough picking the NBA Finals. I think for the West, I don't know where to even go within the Western Conference. I think if I had to pick a team right now that's my favorite, I think it's Golden State. I think Golden State would be the team in the Western Conference for me
To make the finals?
to make the if it's not Golden State for me, the next team that I would probably take, I want to say Phoenix, but they burned me so bad last season. But then again, they have Bradley Beal now added to that team, which I think is going to be really good. Um, for me, I think the Western Conference is, in my opinion, it's a top three race between Golden State, Denver, and Phoenix. I think the Lakers will be fine this season. I just don't think, compared to those other three, I should say, that they're going to be able to beat them. But no, my luck, LeBron will prove me wrong, and he'll probably get to the NBA Finals now that I'm saying this. But I think I like Golden State's chances of making it. I think you have Steph, you have Clay, you have Wiggins, you now have Chris Paul, you have Draymond still there. You brought him back because remember there were rumors he was going to leave this past offseason. So you got all these guys in your starting five. I think the biggest concern for the Warriors is going to be how is their bench going to do this upcoming season. If the bench has a good year, then they're going to be fine. They obviously lost DiVincenzo to the Knicks. They got Dario Saric and Corey Joseph. They had Rudy Gay, Rodney McGruder, but they just cut them 2 days ago. Brady Pozamensky from Santa Clara is going to be a really good player for them, in my opinion. So I think the Warriors, what it comes down to is their bench going to be good enough to help them make the postseason and help them make the NBA Finals. I think I would tend to lead towards them being my NBA final pick in the Western Conference. And then I'll go to the Eastern Conference in a second if you want to make your Western Conference pick.
Okay. So my Western Conference pick, I want to pick Denver. I want to pick Denver, but it's so hard to go back to back.
Right.
I know
Never.
we just lost Troy Brown too.
Right. Well,
Bruce
Bruce
Brown.
Brown.
Bruce
Yeah.
Brown. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
I know
sorry.
what you meant.
I know I said Troy Brown. I know we just lost Bruce Brown, but do I want to pick Denver? Give me the Suns. Give me the
Oh
New
boy,
York New
he's
York
falling for
Suns.
it.
I'm pulling for it. Give me
He's falling
Suns.
for it because we did this
Um,
last season.
I know. Give me the Suns because they got Bradley Beal now. Devin Booker and
Nurkic
KD.
is still not a bad center.
Jurkic is viable. He's a good.
There's
He can
listen,
stretch the floor too.
their bench is pretty good too. I don't think their bench is that bad.
No, it's not. That's what's kind of selling me. Like I still like Eric Gordon off the bench. I like Bol Bol. They have viable options. I think they can go 8 or 9 deep in the playoffs to give them some rest. So give me the Suns.
Uh-huh.
I really want to say Denver, but I don't want to jinx them. So give me the Suns.
Then they also did they get Grayson Allen in that trade, or was he in the? Did he go to
I
Portland?
I think he's in Portland. I'm not sure though. I could be wrong, but
I don't remember. I'll check that in the moment time. But do you want me to make my Eastern Conference pick, or do you want to take the
I will
floor for
defer
that?
to you. You can go make your Eastern Conference pick.
Okay. Well, I said it earlier. I think this is pretty much a two-team race in the East to make the NBA Finals between Boston and Milwaukee. Um, because it's tough. I think you look at these two teams. Milwaukee got Dame now. Boston got Porzingis. They now have Drew Holiday. I think if not for making that Drew Holiday trade, I think I would have leaned towards Milwaukee being the team for me in the Eastern Conference. But I think we get a rematch in the NBA Finals this season from a couple years ago. I think it's going to be Golden State versus Boston in the NBA Finals. I
Oh
think
boy, I hope
I
not.
I hope not either, but I just think just getting a guy like Drew Holiday to add to that team, I think is huge for the Celtics. I think you spoke about it. He's a clear upgrade over Marcus Smart, but he does a lot more than Marcus Smart did in terms of scoring ability. And that's what's so good about Drew Holiday. This is a guy that's made NBA, has been a former NBA All Star, could easily be an All Star again, in my opinion, if he has a really good year with the Celtics. And they really had a good overall offseason. I think getting Porzingis was good. You got Jaylen Brown back. They really didn't lose as much in the offseason, I think, in my opinion. Obviously, they traded Smart away. They traded Grant Williams away. Williams and Brogdon were in the Portland deal for Drew Holiday. I don't think it's too much of a loss for this team. I still think on paper they are the best team in the Eastern Conference. I think compared to Milwaukee, I think they are the better team. So I will have Golden State taking on Boston in this year's NBA Finals.
I hate that your prediction's probably right. That's what's really upsetting about this.
Yeah.
Um, I'm also gonna go with a finals matchup we already had. Give me the Bucks. Give me Dame to finally make it to the big dance. Give me Giannis to finally get back there, and give me a rematch that we had a couple years ago in the first year post pandemic. I think it was 2021. If I'm correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
They've got what it takes, and I'm not gonna pick Boston. I'm not gonna pick Miami. So give me Milwaukee. That's the only thing I think that would keep me okay and keep me sane.
Okay. Now, making that prediction, who do you think comes out as the NBA champion?
Uh,
Is this finally Phoenix's time?
yeah, because Chris Paul's not there, and I think it'd be super ironic for them to win a championship as soon as he gets traded. So
Now, you look at my NBA final, Johnson. I think I have to ask you the question: what is the worst option for you? Chris Paul finally getting that illustrious first championship, or the Celtics winning another title?
what's worse? The
What's
Celtics winning
worse?
another title. That's by far.
Well, congratulations, because I'm picking the Boston Celtics winning another NBA championship.
No thanks. I beg you know, nope, no thanks.
Well, listen, for me personally, I don't want that to happen because of Boston. You know how I feel about that. But if we consider this kind of a mushing hour, think about what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I am mushing the Suns right now, so that's
So,
okay.
listen, I think this was something we did in the remember what we did in the NBA playoff prediction. We had Boston versus Phoenix in the NBA Finals most of the time. We had the Celtics going to the championship, and obviously that did not work out because they both got eliminated by the time the conference finals got there. So I think just because of what Boston did in the offseason, I think compared to what the Sun, and you got to think with the matchup too, where they're facing Golden State, they have so much size compared to that Golden State team. I think that's going to be too much for the Warriors to handle. I think this is
That's what
fine.
could.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like you said it right. I think that's what concerns me because they're so short. They don't have a big man. They don't have a true big man. I know Draymond acts like the big man, but he hasn't been able to in
Listen,
a couple
sometimes
years
it
now.
works, sometimes it doesn't. It really depends on how Draymond will do at center. We've seen him play center before, so it wouldn't be
Yeah,
the first
absolutely.
time.
Like I'm not discounting him in the past. He's been absolutely fine at center. He's been
It's
great,
more of
but
you're more concerned about
it's his
Clay
age now.
Thompson, and
Yeah.
yeah, and the age obviously of the team. That's fair. Um, but being that as it may, is there any other surprise that you have for this upcoming NBA season?
I'm glad you asked that. I have one surprise, which I think will be a big one. Can you name me the last rookie to make the All Star game?
Ooh, was it?
There's been
I
10 since 1985.
I want to say Luca.
Luka did not make it. No,
Really, he didn't make his All Star year.
no, sir.
Uh, I don't even know. What year? What? When was it?
2011.
2011. Was that Blake Griffin? No, that's
Yes,
not
it
Blake.
is.
Oh, it was Blake
It is.
Griffin.
Blake Griffin is the last rookie to make an All Star game, and I'm saying
Really?
that Wemby will have the Spurs in the playoff hunt by the All Star break. They will ultimately be like another Jazz and not make the
Uh,
playoffs. But Wemby will get an All Star game for the first rookie since 2011. So the first time in over 12 years will a rookie make the All Star game.
okay. I was not expecting you to say that.
I think it. Listen, he was he was absolutely cooking in the preseason. I know it's the preseason; you can't really get too excited, but the fact that he's able to pull off these moves at such a high level is incredible. So I don't know how he's going to look in the regular season, but he could be like a 20-10-2 kind of guy. And if that's the case, and if the Spurs are exciting, they're going to put him in the All Star game because it's NBA is a revenue generated league.
Right. Uh, okay. I don't hate it. I didn't know. I didn't really realize that that was the last time that a rookie made the All Star game. That's wild. I would have thought you think of all the rookies that we've seen the past couple seasons that maybe they would have made at one point.
No, they don't let you do it. I mean, they don't really let you rookies make it. They don't, I don't think LeBron made it as a rookie.
Well, I'm kind of glad you said that because it kind of ties into what my potential surprise could be in the NBA. And I think everyone is very inclined to say Victor Wembanyama is going to win Rookie of the Year. I don't think he does. I don't think he's going to win Rookie of the Year.
Really?
I, I think Scoot Henderson's going to win Rookie of the Year this year. Um, I
Not even
think
Chet?
I want to say Chet because you talked about I talked about how the Thunder were going to make the playoffs. I think what it comes down to me for Scoot is he's obviously now the young future of that team, and now you're adding DeAndre Ayton to that team as well as Brogdon and Robert Williams. That's going to give Scoot a lot of opportunity. He might. I think Scoot has a really good chance of averaging a double double this season. I think he's got the scoring ability. He'll have the playmaking ability as well. And he'll bring some electricity back to Portland because they haven't seen it since the early days of Damian Lillard. And that's what they're looking for right now in a player. They need someone to make sure that they can bring fans to the arena because you're looking for a new face of the franchise. I think Scoot will do that for this team. I think the biggest reason why I don't want to pick Wemby is because of injury concerns. I think, unfortunately, at some point in the season, there's going to be an injury, and that's going to cost him a couple games and might cost him Rookie of the Year.
I respect it, but I'm gonna have to
I know, obviously,
decline
in your
that.
case, you don't want that happen,
I could
but
definitely, it's definitely possible. I could see that it's a plausible outcome, but I'm respectfully gonna decline that and say no.
okay. I listen. I understand. It ties in, unfortunately, with your potential surprise, but it is what it is. That's why we are in the mushing hour, if we want to call it that. So who
All right,
knows?
so we are gonna have a very exciting NBA season. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be very exciting. Um, it's one of the most unpredictable sports, at least star wise. Anyone's opinion can change at the drop of a dime. There's drama, there's great games, big moments, and I can't wait for this season. And before we sign off today, Nick, do you have anything else you'd like to add to the end of this season? What you're looking forward to?
I've been heartbroken by a lot of my teams these past couple months. I need the Knicks to do good because if they don't, I will be very miserable.
Me and you both. I agree with you.
Yeah, it has been these last couple months have been absolutely brutal watching some of my favorite sports teams. So I need the Knicks to be good, and if the Knicks don't be good, then I'm really relying on St. John's to be good. So
Rick Pitino had a big scrimmage yesterday,
they did.
winning against Rutgers in double overtime, and they were up by 20 at some point. Went to double overtime, but Rick Pitino said he'd rather win in double overtime than win by 20 because of all the lessons you can learn. And I tend to agree with him, and that should be the philosophy for any NBA coach going forward. Right? Early in the season, you want to. I would want my teams to go into triple overtime to learn mistakes at that point, to know that no lead is safe. And I know a lot of NBA players, we've seen a 10-point lead in the NBA now is equivalent to like a 2-point lead 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just with the free ball, you can cut a 10-point lead in 90 seconds now.
Well, I'm sure we'll be talking about this upcoming, I almost said NBA, but we'll be talking about this upcoming college basketball season because I know how big for us it's going to be big with St. John's and all the momentum that we have and hype going into this season. But that should be another fun year as well. The college basketball always brings a fun time for any basketball fan, and I'm sure we'll see some really good moments this upcoming season, and hopefully for us, maybe some March Madness because we have not seen that in a very long time. So who knows?
I hope so. And I just do want to plug one thing. We are going to be set up at the Central Jersey Card Show, not this weekend, but next weekend, November 4th. That's going to be at Middlesex County Community College, November 4th from the hours of 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I'm hoping to see everyone there. Again, that is in 2 weeks, but we're going to start plugging it now because it's one of the largest shows in the Central Jersey area. And I know to a lot of our listeners in the tri-state area, yes, Central Jersey is a real place. It is not just North and South.
Yeah, make sure to look at all of our socials for more information on that card show in the next couple of weeks. Follow us at our Instagram at AGMB underscore sports underscore cards on Instagram and all other social media accounts as we'll give you more information on that upcoming card show and future card shows that we'll be doing in the next couple of months. So next couple of months will certainly be some fun times here at the AGMB sports team as well as this upcoming NBA season. It should be a fun one to see how it all unfolds. But that is going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. The 2023-2024 NBA season is just on the horizon. Tip-off is in 2 days, and we'll have to see how all of it unfolds this upcoming NBA season. Hopefully our New York Knicks make the postseason and make some noise in the NBA playoffs, and we'll have to see how all of it unfolds in terms of who wins the NBA championship, MVP, and all those other fun awards. This has been Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside by Andrew Johnson with the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your weekend.